Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she pulled another double shift at County General Hospital. 34 years old, a single mother, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd slept more than 4 hours. Her scrubs were faded from too many washes, her shoes held together with superglue, and the protein bar in her pocket was supposed to be both lunch and dinner. At home, her 8-year-old son Tommy was waiting with a neighbor because Sarah couldn't afford after-school care. The rent notice on her kitchen counter glowed red, 7 days overdue. Her car had started making a grinding noise that she knew meant expensive repairs she couldn't afford. Tommy needed new shoes. His toes were cramped in the old ones. The school supply list sat untouched because choosing between notebooks and groceries wasn't really a choice at all. She was exhausted, bone deep, soul tired, exhausted. But Sarah had learned something about exhaustion. It reveals who you really are. And as she walked past the hospital bulletin board during her break, a single piece of paper stopped her cold. A photograph of a 6-year-old girl with bright eyes and a brave smile. Emma Hartwell, stage 5 renal failure. Desperate need for kidney donor. The parents' plea was simple, raw, honest. No reward offered, just hope. Just a prayer typed onto white paper by people she'd never met. Sarah stared at that photo and saw Tommy's eyes looking back at her. Her sister's voice echoed in her head from their last conversation. You can't save everyone when you can barely save yourself. Logical, practical, completely reasonable. Sarah's own kidney function was fine, but she only had 2. What if something happened? What if Tommy needed her healthy, whole, completely available? Some decisions don't make sense on paper. They only make sense in the heart. 3 days later, Sarah sat across from the hospital transplant coordinator, a pen hovering over consent forms. Her hand shook. The coordinator asked if she needed more time. Sarah thought about Tommy, about Emma, about the kind of world she wanted her son to grow up in. A world where people helped each other, even when it cost them everything. She signed her name. She had no idea this choice would change everything. The morning of surgery, Sarah lay on the pre-op gurney, IV line already inserted, hospital gown thin against the cold air. Tommy had stayed with her sister overnight. Sarah pulled out her phone one last time, looking at his school photo. Gap-toothed smile, messy hair, eyes full of trust. She touched the screen gently. "Mommy's gonna be okay," she whispered. The anesthesiologist asked her to count backward from 10. She made it to 7. When Sarah woke, pain exploded across her left side like fire. Monitors beeped steadily. A nurse checked her vitals, adjusted her morphine drip. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her abdomen, feeling the thick bandage covering the incision. Beneath the gauze, a part of her was simply gone, given away, living inside a child she'd never met. She asked the recovery nurse if she could see Emma, meet the family. The nurse's smile was sympathetic, but firm. Hospital policy. The Hartwells had also requested privacy during this difficult time. Sarah understood. But the separation felt strange, intimate and distant all at once. That evening, something slid under her door. A cream-colored envelope, expensive paper, inside, elegant handwriting. "You gave our daughter life. We can never repay this debt. With eternal gratitude, the Hartwells." No phone number, no address, just words and mystery. The next 6 weeks were brutal. Medical leave, unpaid, bills stacked up like accusations. Sarah could barely walk the first 2 weeks. Tommy, 8 years old, became her helper. He'd hold her arm as she shuffled to the bathroom, his small face serious with responsibility no child should carry. Her sister visited, anger barely contained. "You gave away a kidney and didn't even get help with the medical bills?" Sarah's response was quiet. "I didn't do it for a reward. I did it because it was right." 6 months passed. Sarah's scar healed, but her financial wounds deepened. 6 months after surgery, Sarah's landlord knocked on her door with a manila envelope. 30-day eviction notice. She'd missed 2 months of rent, and his patience had run out. The paper felt heavier than it should. Her car had died completely the week before. Transmission failure. $1,500 she didn't have. Now she took 2 buses to get Tommy to school before her hospital shifts. Wake up at 5, home by 8 at night. The irony wasn't lost on her. She saved lives at the hospital, but couldn't save her own living situation. Tuesday afternoon, Tommy's teacher called. His lunch account was overdrawn. Could Sarah please settle the balance? Sarah looked at her bank account. $18 until Friday. That evening, Tommy found her at the kitchen table, staring at the eviction notice, tears streaming down her face. His voice was small, frightened. "Did I do something wrong?" Sarah pulled him into her arms, holding him so tight. "Never. You're my whole world." But later that night, after Tommy fell asleep, Sarah sat alone in the darkness and let the questions come. Had giving away that kidney been a mistake? Had she sacrificed her son's stability for a stranger? Across the city, in a place Sarah couldn't imagine, Emma Hartwell laughed and ran through gardens, healthy and alive, her parents watching with tears of joy. The kidney Sarah gave was thriving. Emma was thriving. Sarah had given everything. Was the universe paying attention, or had her sacrifice vanished into the void? On a rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. Saturday morning, 7 o'clock. Sarah was surrounded by half-packed boxes, her entire life being sorted into what they could keep and what had to go. Tommy was still asleep in his room. She wore her old bathrobe, the one with the frayed sleeve, hair unwashed, eyes red from another sleepless night. 3 firm knocks on the door. Sarah assumed it was the landlord coming early. She opened the door, ready to ask for one more week. Instead, a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stood before her. Beside him, a woman in elegant attire who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, and between them, a small 6-year-old girl with bright, familiar eyes. Sarah's breath caught. The girl's medical bracelet, the placement of it, those eyes. "Emma," the man spoke first, his voice gentle. "Miss Chen, I'm Alexander Hartwell. This is my wife Victoria and our daughter Emma. 6 months ago, you saved her life." Sarah knew the name Hartwell from the note, but she'd never known who they were, never imagined this. Through the doorway, she could see their car parked on the street, a vehicle worth more than her entire apartment building. Alexander Hartwell, the Alexander Hartwell, CEO of Hartwell Global Industries. She'd seen his face on business magazines at the hospital, a tech billionaire worth billions, but he wasn't here to flaunt wealth. His eyes were filled with tears. Emma suddenly broke free from her parents' hands and wrapped her small arms around Sarah's legs. "You're my hero. Daddy says you gave me your kidney." Victoria's voice cracked with emotion. "We wanted to respect your privacy during recovery, but we've been searching for the right way to thank you." Alexander stepped forward. "We learned about your situation, not through investigation, through Emma's doctor, who mentioned you'd return to work early due to financial strain. We'd like to help, if you'll allow us." Sarah stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Sarah's first instinct was to step back.
"I didn't do it for a reward." Alexander's expression softened with understanding. "We know. That's exactly why we're here."